I think that there's something really interesting happening in the industry right now, and so I'm very pleased to talk with you about it today. So a little bit, just by introduction, so Pete Kim, I'm the CEO of MightyHive. I used to run platform biz dev over at Google, was a product manager at Yahoo for a little while, oversaw the development of dynamic creative there. And earlier last year, we were recognized by AdExchanger as one of the top programmatic service firms in the world, and specifically, we were called out as the, quote, in-houser. And so that's a label that we are very, very proud of, and we've done some great work in that field, and I'm very excited to talk with you about it today. So, just a couple of the companies that we work with, these are the ones that we're allowed to name: Sprint, Nationwide Insurance, Caesars, Mondelez, Pandora, etc. These are just a handful of the publicly known companies that we are working with. There are far, far more, and I think that it's safe to echo Josh's comment, which is that this is no longer a curiosity, this is no longer a trend, this is now an honest-to-goodness option as to how to run your marketing businesses. So I always like to kind of start out with a big picture view of what's happening in the industry. And it's not about in-housing, and it's not about DSPs and programmatic. What's really driving all of this is a fundamental shift in media. At the end of the day, if you ever listen to somebody talk about these things, and they're not talking about the consumers, you know that they've probably missed a very important angle, because the consumer is always the most important person in any conversation around advertising. Ultimately, they are the reason we're doing all this. And so against that backdrop, we can confidently say that there has been, in the last few years, a fundamental shift in media. Never before in history has the following been true. Consumers today can watch anything they want, listen to anything they want, read anything they want, consume any media that they want at the touch of a button, perfectly integrated, perfectly synchronized across every connected device that they own. That is an incredible statement, and it has some really interesting ramifications. Number one is this: people expect more from every single moment of screen time than ever before. Literally, any time that someone's looking at their screens, they expect to be surprised, delighted, wowed, because it's always exactly what they want to see. And that expectation for relevance, for meaning, for personalization, for quality, extends not only to the media that comes through these screens, but also to the advertisements that comes through with them. And that creates a little bit of a challenge. Because, unlike media, consumers don't curate their own ad streams. They don't pick what they're going to listen to, or they do pick what they're going to listen to, but they don't pick which ads they're going to watch. And so the advertisers are stuck in this place where they have to figure out the perfect ad to show, rather than what the media owners do, which is just make sure that the perfect media is available. And that's a really, really hard thing. And that's why there's so much backlash today against advertisers. Because today it's true that there has never been a time where consumer sentiment around advertising has been lower. You don't need me to tell you this, because we have things like banner blindness, where we're training people to ignore the ads, or we have things like ad blockers, where people are just saying, you know what, I don't want to see these at all. But if you take a step back and think about it, there has to be a reason for this. And it's not just, and it's either one of two things. Either we got worse at this, or people's expectations went up. And I claim it's the second one. Because of this fundamental shift in media, what's going on today is that people expect more from their screen time, and yes, they expect more from their ads, and we need to deliver. And that means that all of our ads need to be cross-screen, they need to be personalized, they need to be everywhere, they need to be as good as we can make it based upon all available information. In short, they need to be perfect, just like the media streams that they are watching. And if we don't deliver that, then people get a little bit upset. So, against this backdrop, there is chaos in the industry as everybody tries to figure out how the heck we're going to deliver. Marketers, we don't understand our tech stack. Brands are taking back control of digital advertising. Federal prosecutors probe ad industry's media buying practices. In my entire career in advertising, I have never seen a time in which there has been so much upheaval and so much opportunity. Mark Pritchard has been very vocal around this subject, and I'll just read one of his quotes. "We had too many people between us and the consumer. Taking too long to get things done, we have to move a lot faster. As we chased the holy grail of digital, we relinquished too much control, chasing shiny objects, overwhelmed by big data, and ceding power to algorithms. We are going to take more control of our media planning, data, and analytics." And that is the guy who runs the largest advertising budget on the planet. We think that what Mark is trying to say, and what we agree with, is that control is not about what's being done, it's about who is doing the work. So today, as we talk about the spectrum of control, we're not going to be talking about, hey, this is what you should do, or this is what you should, or that's what you should do, here's how you get your analytics to match up with your creative, and here's the bidding algorithms that are going to be right. No. Today, what we're going to be talking about is who should be doing the work, and what that means for control over your own destinies. Why take control? Josh did a great job of an overview on this stuff, so I'll just be quick here. Number one, improved performance. At the end of the day, advertising is a commercial execution. Its job is to create ROI. And we believe that taking control, you'll have better ability to deliver this. Transparency and cost savings, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. I think everybody gets this one. Speed and agility. In a world where things just seem to be accelerating every single day, either you are going to win the race or your competitor is. And I promise you, your lives will be better off if you are the ones that are fast and nimble and agile and win the race by putting the perfect message in front of everybody. We tell our clients today, industry standard is you're lucky if you're running 2 experiments a year. They think I'm kidding when I say that the goal is 2 experiments an hour. In order to do that, you have to be able to move faster, with more precision, and with more purpose than ever before, and that too takes control. There are barriers to control. If it were easy, everybody would do it. Massive confusion in the industry. Anybody can take a look at the eye chart that is our industry ecosystem map and be understandably confused by what the heck is going on. A lack of ability to execute. Sometimes it's really hard to find partners that seem to know what they're doing. They can talk a good game, but where are their results? Do they really know what they're talking about, or are they just hiding behind a big fat logo and hoping that nobody notices that they really don't know what they're talking about? Resistance to change. Let's be very clear. This is a massive change, and change always has its opponents. There will always be people who want to make sure that the status quo stays exactly the same, that we do not progress from A to the future. And that's just, look, it is what it is. There are always going to be those people, and they're always going to have to be dealt with, and we should call that out as a barrier. But in this massive race that we are all engaged in right now, I am positive that the organizations that take control will be the winners of the future. As a matter of fact, it seems kind of interesting to me, odd even, that we outsourced talking to our customers to somebody else in the first place. Just seems kind of weird, right? I mean, that's pretty important. That being said, the reason why we chose the title as the spectrum of control as opposed to the decision for control is the following. Taking control is not a binary decision. It is not it's not so simple. You're not either, if it were a binary decision, it could be I'm in control or I'm not. No. There are a range of options between control. There's various types of control. And today, we're going to explore what those things might mean. And that's what we call the spectrum of control. For every single person in this room who works for an advertiser, who works inside of a marketing organization, as a matter of fact, I'll go even more broadly than that. 5,000 of the Fortune 5,000 are going to have to figure this out. They're going to have to figure out where on the spectrum of control they land. They're going to have to make a plan to get there, and then they're going to have to execute. So what does this look like? This is a simplified version, right? For a talk like this that only lasts 30 minutes, there's only so deep that we can get, but this gives you a flavor for what's going on. Here are 4 viable options. Again, this is not what, this is who. Number 1, outsourced and non-transparent. These are networks, these are non-transparent trading desks, Criteo, AdRoll, the black boxes of the world. Maybe they're doing great stuff, but you don't know because it's all hidden from you and you can't tell. Number 2, outsourced and transparent. The transparent agencies who are out there right now and beginning to actually open up the kimono a bit and tell you how these things go, that's option number 2. Number 3, what we call an embedded partner or agency. This is partners or consultants who work inside your offices, not somewhere else. They are available at the tap of a shoulder as opposed to 3 weeks from now, whenever you can figure out the right time for a conference call after an endless email loop of frustration. Finally, fully in-house. All employees, all inside, all the time. Now let me be very clear. I am not saying that everybody should go fully in-house. As Josh said, there's a range of options here, and I was very deliberate in putting this up there. 4 viable options. Depending upon who you are, you may fall somewhere along this spectrum. And it's part of the art and part of the challenge of what we have to do together to figure out where that's going to be. Now, of course, it gets a little bit more complicated, and here it is. There are separate choices for critical execution areas. I chose a few here for illustrative purposes: audience, creative, media, measurement, technology contracts. And you know what? Each of these discretely can have a different choice on where on the spectrum of control you lie. For example, here, maximum control, in-house everything. Every single thing is done by an in-house employee. Audience, creative, media, measurement, tech contracts, everything. Hardest to execute, probably the greatest potential for performance. On the other hand, fully outsourced, easiest to execute. There will be lots of people who are very happy to take black box margins, to have everything just be, you know what, I don't want to worry about it, you do it, I'm just going to pay you a fee and it'll be done. Easiest to execute, but performance will always be limited because your profit comes after their profit, because they're the ones that are pulling the levers. Nonetheless, as I mentioned, sometimes this might be the right strategic choice. Hybrids are common. It's always crazy to me, right? People are talking about in-housing all the time. Oh, we've in-housed this. Oh, we've in-housed that. What did you in-house? Did you in-house your creative? Did you in-house your targeting, your media buying, hands-on keyboard? What's going on, right? This shows that hybrids are common and that some people will have things that should be fully insourced and other things that are actually not quite. And we've seen that with many, many, many clients to date. So it begs the question, where do you belong? How, on this chessboard that we've set up, do we figure out what is the right and proper long-term stance for my organization? Well, let's dive into it. Here are 5 factors to consider when you're trying to figure out where you belong on the spectrum of control. Number 1, media budget, your fees. If you are spending $100 million on media a year, or $200 million, or $300 million, calculate what 5% fees are on that. And then ask yourself how many people you could hire on an in-house team with that amount of budget. The bigger your budget is, the more people you could hire, the greater the chance for savings and for performance. Number 2, sensitivity of data. In today's world, everybody keeps talking about 2 things around data. Number 1, how do we use it? And number 2, equally as important, How do we protect it? Because what happens when a data breach occurs? CEOs get fired. The willingness to share data has never been lower. Not because we are selfish and we want to guard this stuff, but because we need to guard it, because otherwise people get fired. If you are going to use the data, but it can't go outside the four walls, it's very clear that moving towards control of that data is something that might be appealing. That being said, sensitivity of data is what that says, and here's what I mean by that. All data is sensitive, but some data is more sensitive than others. Here's a litmus test for you. If your industry has specific regulations and laws written specifically for your industry's data, then that's a good indication that it's very sensitive. Let's name them. Anybody? Does anybody know a law that's around specific types of data? Financial services, yes. What's the name of the law? Graham-Leach-Bliley. Yeah. Okay, here's HIPAA. That's another good one. Yes. Healthcare information. Healthcare information, finance information, there's many more, right? Actually, the entire continent of Europe at this point might be considered something like that because of GDPR and others. Anyway, the more sensitive the data, the more that it makes sense to take control and keep control over it. Diversity of target audience, and I'll just keep going to the next one, diversity of product portfolio. Both of these things are indicative of the complexity inside of an advertising execution. If you've got one product to a largely homogeneous audience, it's not that hard. Find the perfect ad, put it out there, lather, rinse, repeat, done. Very, very few people operate in that sort of simplistic world anymore. Instead, we've got dozens, hundreds, thousands of products, each of which will have dozens, hundreds, thousands of different sub-audiences. When you start doing the math, the complexity becomes mind-boggling. And it's just too much to think that some outsourced team is really going to be able to crack that nut, especially when they don't have access to all the data that they need. Finally, need for agility. This has come up many, many times today, and it is about speed. If you work in an industry that is highly competed, if you work in an industry where there is a lot of back and forth, cell phones, for example, or many, many other sort of industry sectors that I can think of, if you need your head on a swivel and you need to be able to react quickly, having a team where you have maximum control and maximum responsiveness and maximum agility is table stakes. Because you will literally be able to run circles around your competitors who just can't react fast enough. Here's a couple of key insights around this. Number one, this will take time. Make a plan to go step by step. You heard Josh talk about 2 years to make a leap to fully in-housed. It's about right. If you think about the magnitude of the changes that you're trying to create, Rome wasn't built in a day, and you're not going to make a fundamental shift inside of your marketing stance overnight. And let me be clear, it's a mistake to try. So many people are trying to get from A to B way too fast in an instant gratification kind of, mindset. It takes time. And it will be worth it at the end, but everybody should understand that 6 months to 2 years is about the range that we see. If you're going to start somewhere, then measurement and tech contracts are a great place to start. From a tech contract standpoint, this is very obvious. If you are a marketer and you are taking and getting access to your ad tech stacks, your ad servers, your DSPs, or whatever, through somebody else, then in the eyes of those platform holders, whether it be Amazon, Google, Facebook, or whatever, you don't own your own data. Whoever signed the contract owns your data. And that's not good. You should be the owners of your own data so that you can use it for whatever you want, whenever you want, because it's yours. And the first thing that you should use it for is measurement. A lot of time and attention has been spent on audience and creative and media and how the best to do these things. I actually think that those are important, but what's more important is the ability to measure your own performance. The old axiom is true. You cannot improve what you cannot measure. And you should be in charge of measuring your own results. Lots and lots of talk has been put out there around so-called platforms grading their own homework. I think that applies to marketing services too. And I think that you, at the very least, should be willing to grade the homework for somebody else so that you know what's good and what's bad, as opposed to having to accept the word from somebody else, maybe because you didn't have the data in the first place. This one's interesting. Train new talent over hiring experience. One of the most interesting reasons why MightyHive has been growing so fast over the last few years is because of a simple fact. Programmatic talent, advanced data-driven marketing talent, is incredibly scarce. We estimate that there is a 10-to-1 disconnect between the number of jobs that are out there and the number of skilled and qualified people that can actually accomplish these jobs, to do them well. The ground truth is that if you are trying to hire these people, you're trying to hire the experience, then you will massively overpay for truly mediocre talent. My favorite is the dude who applied to MightyHive and said, hey, I think I deserve a $250,000 salary because I logged into DBM twice last week. Crazy. That is an exaggeration, but not as big a one as you might think. Far better to train the talent. I'm telling you right now that this stuff, while specialized, is learnable. It is complex, but manageable, and MightyHive every day proves that we can take somebody directly out of college and figure out how to make them into a world-class programmatic person in under a year. And that is a superior strategy than to try and fight over the limited stock that's out there now. Finally, you don't have to do this alone. There is no question in my mind that, once again, 5,000 of the top 5,000 corporations in the world are going to have to do this, and it might be a little bit scary. Seriously, I actually think that this is going to be one of those transformational moments that defines the winners and the losers of the next generation of businesses. The good news is you do not have to do this alone. You have partners like us. There are other folks that are out there that know what they're doing. Here's a clue for you guys. Do not be impressed by big fancy names or big fancy titles. Get into the guts of their true expertise. How many years have they spent hands-on keyboard? How many clients have they actually gotten from point A to point B? I don't really care where you work. Tell me why you're qualified to do this. And those are the questions that you should ask, not where they worked or how famous the brands might be. Just so you guys don't think that all of this is just whistling in the wind, here's a case study for you. When it's done and done right, things really can go well. This is a blinded case study, Fortune 500 technology clients, and they went from fully outsourced to embedded and achieved the following results. 1 year. 100% growth in sales at half the cost. In an industry, in a world where 30% is often considered to be significant, you tell me what it means when we double and halve, which is 4x improvements, and there's still more to go. These guys right now have achieved this through increasing the amount of control that they have by having an embedded team of experts working side by side with them, getting them to a place where they can not only be smarter, use more data, be more responsive. All of these things have happened And we've already gotten to this place, and I'm telling you right now, there's more to go. 5 things that you can do to get started. First and foremost, as I mentioned before, find a good partner. This is complicated, but it is also doable if you have the right guidance and expertise. There. Number 2, assess and audit. If you're going to make some big changes, it kind of makes sense to figure out where you're at right now. You can have the partner, if they know their stuff, can come in and within, call it 2 to 4 weeks, go in and top to bottom assess everything that you do and bring you back a report card that says, here are the things that you're doing well, here are the things that need improvement. And that is the beginnings of a plan to address. Number 3, take ownership of your data and platforms contracts. I'm not going to beat this one to death. You guys already get it. If you're not doing this now, do it ASAP. 4, determine how far you want to go. Figure out where on the spectrum of control your future lies. And then 5, create the roadmap for change. Figure out how long this is going to take, who is going to be necessary in order to get this done, and then move. It's as simple as that. I think that when done correctly, these types of things can well and truly revolutionize our industry. It can address many of the huge issues that we face every single day, and ultimately will help the businesses that will win tomorrow figure out how to talk to their customers today. Small little plug for you guys. Leah, my CMO, is making me say this. Hi, Leah. If you guys are interested, we actually have just put out a report around the spectrum of control. 67% of marketers think they'll have first-party data solved within 18 months. If you're not one of them, you might want to read this report. Thank you very much. My name is Pete Kim. I am the CEO of MightyHive. As you can probably tell, I love talking about this stuff. Please email me with any questions that you may have. And I only have 1 minute and 30 seconds left, so I'll try and take 1 or 2 questions, and then after that, I'll have to go. Yes?
Who were you suggesting on the slide before this when you were talking about the audit? Who were you suggesting would do that? A company like yours or an internal
Oh,
audit?
I don't know, us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just making sure.
Yeah, we can do that for you. Any other questions? Come on. Here we go. Last one. 1 minute and 20 seconds left.
Thanks, Pete. When you look for hiring fresh talent from colleges to train them on programmatic, what skills do you look for in them?
So it's nothing really truly revolutionary. We look for people when we're training folks that are smart, specifically good with people as well as good with the numbers, right? We often find that they come out of interesting places. So obviously you might find economics or business majors that are good, but also we've found a surprising number of statistics majors, applied math majors, right? History, right? It really depends, right? And so I think what's most important is really finding someone that wants to work hard and is willing to learn. Okay. Thank you guys very much. Take care.